afternoon and welcome to this week's Level Up Cyber Live. My name is Tony Bryan and I am your host. And today I'm joined by CyberUp's very own, got an echo, our very own Chief of Staff of CyberUp, Amber Lowry. Amber, thanks for joining us today.
Hello. Very excited. Very excited.
Lots of echoes going on here. So excited about today's discussion. We're going to talk about online safety for kids. We live in a world with technology that's just surrounded by us, right? With iPads, iPhones, Android phones, switches, you name it. There's lots of exposure for young folks to connect to the internet. And so there's lots of great ways in which you as a parent can do some things and, maybe lock it down and make sure that there's a safe and enjoyable experience that everybody feels good with. So we're going to jump into that today. But before we do, let's at least let the audience get a chance to know you a little bit, Amber. So I'd love for you to introduce yourself.
Yeah. So my name is Amber Lowry. I'm the Chief of Staff at CyberUp. I have been with CyberUp for almost 7 years now. So since the beginning, didn't come from a nonprofit background or cybersecurity background, but am very paranoid and have a lot of anxiety. So that fits in really well with cybersecurity. So I helped kind of build our programs whenever it first started and then passed it over to a very capable team to kind of expand from there. So I would say I'm a person who wears many, many hats. And that's why I'm here today. I'm a mom of two small children, elementary or younger. So that's why this topic in particular is a very near and dear to my heart. And oftentimes, especially amongst like the mom friends, we are always talking about this. Like, I want my kid to do X, Y, and Z, but I'm really concerned about how to keep them safe. So that's why I'm really excited to kind of dive in high level about this topic. And I don't know, Tony, do you want me to kick it off from here?
Well, as a gamer myself and the offensive and foul things I hear playing video games, right? I know that there's a lot of exposure. And I don't think most people are obviously intentionally doing things wrong, but it's just, you have the ability to control what your kids hear, see, play. So it's always best practices. So with that, we'll jump into it.
Yeah. And I would say, definitely, as I'm going through this, please feel free to drop your comments in there. I'll just get going. So I've already briefly introduced myself. Everyone loves agendas. So today I'm just going to focus a little bit about CyberUp. I know some of you might have been forwarded a link to our LinkedIn Live and maybe not as familiar with CyberUp. So I want to just high level dive into who we are and why I'm talking about this today, besides I just happen to have two small children. Who this session is for, this is still a very broad topic. So I want to show you what my narrow lens is for today. I'm going to talk about how do you just set up guardrails, the education part, and then we'll once again open up to more comments. But like I said, feel free to drop in the comments, suggestions, your best practices as we go. This can be a dialogue. So for those of you who has just forwarded this link without really knowing who CyberUp is, CyberUp's a nonprofit organization that creates, advocates, and reimagines pathways into equitable technology careers. We do that through our apprenticeship program, and we actually have a youth program talking about this similar thing. So who this session is for, this could be several sessions that we can break this into, but specifically for today, I'm focusing this message on talking to fellow parents, guardians out there, specifically of elementary students. So I know once you throw in cell phones, social media accounts, that's a whole other beast that I'm not prepared to dive into yet. I'm dreading that moment whenever my kid gets to that phase. So right now we're just focusing on the elementary students and the technology that's available to them. However, these are still fundamentals that apply to everyone. This can still apply to your personal life. It can apply even to middle school and high school students. So view this more as a fundamental thing that applies across the board. And then I'm sure we'll dive into another session, another day of specifically talking about social media. So that's kind of the topics, but we do have the luxury of some of our audience on LinkedIn. They're actually professional cybersecurity experts. So with that in mind, if you happen to be listening and you're one of those, feel free to drop in your best practices, how you lock down your stuff for your children. I'm sure I would love to know. And the audience, like I said, view this as a community best practices, how we can all help each other out. So what to do first? I want you to take all the electronics, the tablets, smartphones, so whatever, unplug it and go ahead and throw it in the trash can, and then come join me to Off the Grid Living, where we blissfully sail off into the sunset. But I realize this is not that simple. And in a perfect world, to keep everyone super duper safe, this is the best practice. Unplug, disappear completely. That's not realistic. I was one of the privileged to experience elementary school during a global pandemic and had to experience remote kindergarten, which was an experience. So I realized this is a necessary evil. This, back in my day, this wasn't a thing. The only kind of threats that I had to worry about was just coming home when the porch light came on. A lot of my threats was just visible, like a car driving up. Do you really know this person or not? So for me, my threats were a little easier to spot. But we live in a different world, and it is not realistic to completely get rid of all of our technology, especially since everything's connected online through school, friendships. So how do you find that nice balance between accepting this is what the technology is, where everyone is connected, but while still putting up some safety? How do I still keep my son safe while I open up this whole new world of the internet? First thing that I always do is on every single device, whether that's Chromebooks, Androids, iPhones, iPads, whatever you want to use, they actually all have built-in controls. So that is always my step one. We are setting up the guardrails that I actually have control over. This is what I focus on. Every single device has settings. You just go into the settings, you look under, and this is obviously going to be called different things depending on which device you have, but you go under content and privacy, restrictions or parental controls, whatever it uses in that particular device. You go there first before you even hand the device to your child. This is where you can set restrictions on age, usage limits, different apps they can and can't access, what they can and can't purchase. Maybe they can't even go to the store. Definitely don't put in your credit card and save that. Web searches, you can lock that down. You can even lock down built-in apps and features like FaceTime or Alexa. Do you even want that to be an option? Or can they only FaceTime your phone number and nothing else? And then the biggest thing that I always check is, how do I shut off chat features in games? Because Tony, like you said, especially like Rocket League, when I know this is a game for older people playing, I'm very concerned about the language my son's going to hear, or I don't even know. So you can shut this down in the settings feature. So that's just fundamental. As soon as you get the device, go directly to the settings and start locking that stuff down.
I know I've had friends in the purchasing side of the things, especially with games like Fortnite or games like Rocket League, where there are battle passes or things and skins, and kids love skins. And if that credit card is attached to something, it's really easy, next thing you know, to get a several $100, even $1,000 bill of all the latest Fortnite dances or trends that you could possibly get, or you just buy a bunch of games. So make sure that those things are locked down. Is important.
because the money's not really real to them at the elementary age. And it's just an easy click. So not only do I just not keep the credit card saved in there, but I also prevent them from even accessing it. So it requires even a parental code, that two-factor authentication. So even if you were to go rogue and like go in there and accidentally hit buy, it still requires my input to validate and confirm. And with everything, the more safety precautions you put in there, the more time consuming and kind of sometimes annoying it is for you as the guardian to have to then stop what you're doing and plug in everything. But this also saves me from not having $100 purchase on my credit card, or I don't know, maybe he's purchasing something that I would rather him not, So it's an easy way to help your purchases. So then next up is they actually have apps, parental controls that you can download to help even monitor this. You can use apps like Family Link, Family Sharing. Nintendo Switch has great parental controls. Basically, almost every device has some kind of app or something that's associated with it, whether it's iPhone, Microsoft. On the bright side, because everything's so connected, I've noticed that companies and providers who offer gaming stuff, platforms, they realize this is a big concern. So they actually do a good job of setting up built-in parental controls. So I also, as a second kind of set of eyes, I download whichever parental control app I choose. I download that, and where this is good, this is where you can also monitor your child's emails, social media, once we get to that topic, text messages even, and other mobile functions. You can see how long they're spending on which app. It's another way to control your child's usage amount, when they can even access the electronics, limit potential encounters with inappropriate or harmful content. Like, I know my son loves going on YouTube, but that still makes me nervous every single time he clicks on watching it, because I know how easy it is to go down a YouTube rabbit hole to where it starts off fine and then it just quickly derails. And that terrifies me as a parent, what in 3 clicks he can like stumble upon. So if you set up those age limits, stuff can still kind of filter through, but at least maybe you're less likely to kind of experience that.
So we did have our first question in the chat, though.
Oh, you're on.
Well, Andrew had a great question. So how do you handle your passwords with your kids?
Right now I control his passwords, and I still set up an obnoxiously long password. But I know this is a no-no to write it down on a sticky note. But since we are at the house and the sticky note stays in our house in a specific spot, I write it down for my son. So then when he does need to go on his Chromebook, for example, for school, he has it written down, but I'm still set up as the parental control, as the umbrella account, and he's my sub, the child account. So I can still sometimes have to do two-factor authentication of like, oh yes, he really needs to log in. Sometimes he'll still need my help logging in. So, I mean, and that's the biggest thing with school stuff, the passwords that they send our students to log into their school assigned accounts are atrociously easy. It physically hurts me of how simple this account is. So I try to even change that if I can. Sometimes they don't let me, but yeah, I make a really long one. I email myself the password and then I just pull it up, and sometimes I have to log in for him, which is more work for me, but it keeps him from going rogue.
I know the debate in our house, especially as they get older, when they start changing passwords, to things like Netflix or some sort of streaming device, and then nobody knows the password, and then it becomes a fun game that we all play of like, okay, who has this? And it's fantastic.
Yeah, like I said, I'm not prepared for that middle school, high school age of social media and logins and those discussions. So even elementary is hard enough.
Great question, though.
Yes. Well, and I even have that discussion with him of like, what makes a good password? And I always do like his favorite stuffed animal's name, and I let him pick the number that he wants to use in a special character. And so I'm slowly teaching him now, like, let's use a phrase about your favorite stuffed animal or game or sports or whatever it happens to be. And then that also helps us remember it a little better. So then the next guardrail that I have up is even as something as simple as physical access. So at our household, we do actually have blackout times, and I realize everyone is going to be different. Some families might be a little more relaxed. They might be even more locked down than even I am, which is your own personal comfort. But at our household, we, at a certain time on the weekends, can you even get on your electronics? And then an hour before bedtime, we shut it down. So not only does it help them go to sleep a little easier, they don't need to play it all day. And even especially on the weekends, we have a blackout after lunch until like 3 p.m. to force him to play outside and see what the sunlight looks like. So we even have physical access of anytime he's on it, an adult is awake and around and close nearby that we can help him with stuff or just kind of even monitor it. But this is where the family apps come in, that if, let's say he's a kid and wants to sneak down while I'm sleeping and play at 2 a.m, I will get notified of that. And then that'll be a different discussion. But right now, great kids, they know once it reaches a certain time. The beauty about tablets, like the Amazon Fire, you can actually set an alarm clock and it just shuts off. I don't even have to be the bad guy and kick him off the electronics. It just powers off and you're like, oh no, oh, the tablet's going 9-8. Well, let's go play and do something else. So I set up alarms even on the Nintendo Switch. An alarm bell rings that the entire family can hear. It's like, okay, start wrapping it up. So just having physical times where they can and can't even jump on the electronics is great. So at least you're physically around and can help kind of step in just in case it does quickly go down a wrong rabbit hole. And then even something as simple as common space. My son, he plays in the living room. It's near the entire family. He's not hiding in the basement or up in his bedroom playing by himself. So at any time, I could sit next to him. And if I'm snuggling with him, I'm seeing exactly what he's doing. I can see if chats pop up. I can see if he's, I don't know. Basically, I can just see exactly what he's doing. I can visibly look at any time and just double check, making sure that he didn't sneak through a chat feature that I thought I had locked down, but maybe I didn't. Or he's being nice to other players, or other players are being nice to him. So just another subtle thing that I like to do just to keep an eye on things as I try to give him his freedom and help him kind of show responsibility that he can do this. I can always, just knowing I can swing by at any second kind of helps him stay honest. So then my favorite thing to do, my preferred way to do, is just having them play their games offline. It's what I prefer, but it's not always that easy. Whenever my son first started playing on Minecraft, we actually had an old Xbox with a disc that was probably 10 years old just to get him started with. So he was completely detached from the internet, which made me very happy. But with everything, he's starting to get a little older and he wants to play with his friends. So there are benefits of actually playing with your friends and connecting in that way. He's learning teamwork, and this is how he can kind of hang out with a friend without actually being in person. So I want to kind of accommodate that and encourage that. But then once again, that gives the online access, which then could easily go downhill at any moment. But let's just say You try to keep them on the offline play as long as possible, but they just keep asking about it. So then you have to move to that next step where you actually start connecting them with people online. So what I have actually enjoyed and learned, because I'm not really a big video game person, is that Nintendo Switch does a really great job of a friend code. So you have to send your friend code. So basically, it's me taking a screenshot of my son's friend code and I'm sending it to their parents. And you have to connect via this really long code, which I like. But then there's another kind of threshold or loophole a barrier, I should say, that you have to go through before you can then play online. So games like Animal Crossing or Pokemon Violet, for example, he's still playing kind of online but offline. But if he wants to connect with someone else, then there's another code that you have to know, which once again requires me messaging the adult in this situation to get that specific code that changes every time. And then we plug it in. So once again, with all these security measures, it does require a heavier lift for me, but I'm willing to do that to kind of keep them safe. So there are two different ways that we needed a code just to play in this one game. So I do appreciate that Nintendo Switch and other games in and of themselves kind of set up do. It can still go rogue, like Rocket League. People can still try to add on a special little thing, which always makes me nervous. But at least for the Switch, where you can see all the games that he has and playing, at least on the Switch itself, we can control whether they are or aren't even a friend or a connection to then take it to those next levels. But as with any children or child, where there's a will, there is a way. And so knowing my children, and especially knowing their mother, which was me, they're going to figure out, obviously, a way. I've set up all these guardrails, like 5 different ones that we just talked through. I've set all this up. I'm feeling good about it. I'm realistic, and kids will always find a way to work around this system. So then now this is my next phase of education. So I realize even in my own household, things can slip through. It's natural. They're very smart. Or what I can't control is whenever he goes to school, what he is or isn't allowed to access at school, if the same guidelines and guardrails that I've set up at home even applies there, or if he even goes to a friend's house, if they're even well educated or versed in this. So I realize my guardrails are only so strong, knowing that he will escape it or kind of jump over it occasionally. I now want to focus on the education part to hopefully hone in on the things that I can at least set the foundation. So when he is outside my bubble, that hopefully maybe he's still smart with it. So phase 2, we're moving on to actually educating your child about online stuff. So, number one thing that I do, and I've lectured him so much that he's tired of hearing it, but online safety. So going back to the friend requests, every time he gets a little thing about someone wanted to add him on Nintendo Switch, for example, I always ask him, have you met this person in real life? He always says no. And I'm like, well, that's your answer. Can't add him. Sorry. And he's like, what? No, you don't know who this person is. It could be anybody. I always tell him, even though this avatar may look like a little girl or a boy who say whatever grade they're in, that's yours, could really be a 40-year-old man in the basement playing video games. Like, we don't know. And I hate to kind of make him doubt the world and lose his childhood innocence. But then again, I need him to know It's very serious how to stay safe online. We don't know, whatever this avatar is, who this person really is, unless you've met them in person. We have verified the codes via guardians, and we've added them that way. So hard answer is no. You've not met them in real life? No, you cannot add them. And then I go into why. Why do you think that is? He's like, I don't know. Well, someone who may be in their 40s or 50s or whoever they are, you have to be careful because they're looking for your personal identifiable information, which is your name, your birthday, your street address, your phone number, even pictures, email address, anything that's specific to you. If you do not know them in real life, do not share this with anyone. I don't care if it seems innocent. And this is another small child from, I don't know, somewhere else in the world. You don't know. Don't share any of this. And if you really, really have to, then make up a story. And I think in middle school, I'll go into the catfishing education part of this. I don't want him to get too crazy with his online persona, but it's okay if he wants to elaborate into a completely different identity just to keep his real one safe. Another thing that I highly suggest that he does is just even his avatar. Don't even make it look like yourself. Like, I know this is a little more extreme, but I don't know. You got to be careful out there. So don't even make it look like yourself. So if he's a boy and he wants to be a girl avatar, great. If he wants to have purple hair, red eyes, like a different creature, I applaud that. Don't make this look like yourself. Just that extra little something to help protect his identity. And another main thing, I know it's really easy for online bullying, but I still hit home. Play nice. Treat people how you would like to be treated. Like in Minecraft, he was teleported to a group of, I'm assuming, older children. And he was super excited because he wanted to feel included. As soon as they teleported him there, they instantly killed him and took all of his Minecraft stuff. And he was pretty upset. So it was kind of still a learning experience for him. That felt really terrible. Please don't do that again once you get a little older to anyone else. So just trying to be mindful, not only to be safe, but let's just be a good person also online. And then I really stress the open communication. Even with all of these guardrails up, even with hitting home on all this education and harping on how to stay safe, don't do this, don't do that, it will eventually slip through. He will slip up and he'll do something. So I want him to know that at any time, if he feels uncomfortable with anything that's happening online, you can always come and get me. I will handle it. And he will not get in trouble for this. He might get another lecture of online safety, but he won't get in trouble. So even if he slips up and adds someone that he shouldn't do, if he starts chatting and quickly it turns inappropriate and he feels uncomfortable, I still want that open communication to come to me so things don't get even worse for him. So kind of in summary, and we can open this up to more comments or questions. What I really focus on at this elementary age is just setting up guardrails, doing everything that I can as a guardian to set up a little safety bubble for him. And then knowing that's only going to go so far, I then move on to the education part of just age appropriate, realizing of different ways how you have to be safe. I don't want to completely ruin the world for him and distrust everything, but I want him to at least know that some of these things exist, and this is why he really does have to be safe online. And about we went through, I'll keep flipping through. All right, but shameless plug. For more online safety opportunities for youth, we do have PowerUp. That's our youth program where we kind of dive into topics similar to what we talked about today, but we actually dive in a little bit deeper of stuff to do. So I encourage you to check out our website. And yeah, I'll stop presenting now. Any other kind of questions, Tony, or comments? Oh, I think you're muted.
I am muted. It helps to unmute. No other questions. And it's one of those things that gaming's not going anywhere, right? Like this is the future. Kids and esports and just playing online with friends. I mean, my oldest, I have vivid memories of my oldest child, Nolan, who played RuneScape. RuneScape's a really old game. It had a similar situation, Aiden, like literally at 10, just in shambles and tears because somebody took everything he had that he had worked for so many years, and it felt terrible in the moment, but at the same time, it is a lesson learned, right? Like, hey, you shouldn't do that, and especially we talked a lot about Switch, but you start getting into PC gaming and it's like Steam, which is a whole nother world. Like there's a lot of different guardrails that are out there for PC versus like console. And some of these steps become a little bit harder. You start throwing in Discord, and then there are a lot of folks that are out there that have like streamers that are using voice changers, right? To your point of like, this is a 12-year-old boy. When I watch pretty regularly, he acts like he's about a 10-year-old boy, and he's clearly not.
Yeah, he's or something. Yeah.
He's doing it for the fact that he's really, really good, and like makes joke that he's a 10-year-old that's just beating all the adults pretty badly. And so it really is easy to to find apps and things that you can mimic older adults that have bad intentions. And so it's not all. And I hope the takeaway everybody's like, yes, the internet is scary. Video games are, there's a lot of risk with it. But if you do some of these things and steps and best practices, you have the ability to really help make sure your children have online, a safe experience on the internet, and especially in video games. So I appreciate it. It was great information. I'm glad that my kids were a little bit older and I don't have to worry about all that stuff and the risks that come along with it. I know my nephews and nieces, I play games with them pretty often. They'll hop in and we'll play Fortnite or other games, and we have a lot of fun. But again, I know, risks and things that come along with it. And I too, I've been bullied in my time, even as an adult, right? And so it's easy to happen. It's not necessarily age specific. But with that, we're at 10:30, or not 10:30, 1:30, and we've hit time. So I want to make sure to invite everybody for next week. We're going to have Renita Rhodes as our guest. We're going to talk about the idea of SOC. Cybersecurity is way more than just SOC. I know everybody who comes into this space wants to be a pen tester and a SOC analyst. And those are the hot topic buttons, but there's a lot of opportunities out there with auditing and GRC and so many other roles. So we're gonna dive into that, and then the following week we're gonna have Chris Cockburn with CISA. We're going to talk about how to get into cyber through federal jobs in the military. So a little bit different subject matter there, but I appreciate you joining us today, Amber. It's great content. I think important for parents to know. There's a lot of uncertainty, right? Depending on the parent's age, how tech savvy they are. So this is all great information. So until next week, thank you guys. I lied to you. We had a question that popped up. Have you used apps like Bark or in family time, which you mentioned, to monitor your children?
Yeah, so not Bark, but I was reading about that online when I was preparing for this presentation. So probably whenever he gets into middle school and starts going on the social media stuff, then I will use that one. I will also try to slow play that as long as possible until I finally have to go to that tipping point to even allow him on it. But yes, Bark looked like an amazing high-rated app where you can monitor social media, especially. But yeah, I use Family app or Link or all those, the Microsoft. So I use the other ones that I talk about.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, everybody. Have a great week, and get outside if you haven't, because the weather is supposed to be incredible. So until next week, everybody have a good one. Thank you.